This book called a Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, and they use this book to describe human behaviors and to some quite extremes, and in order to give people drugs to control the symptoms, so a form of social control. And the talk therapies or psychotherapies started using this to help people adjust their experience with said phenomena and to change their own behavior. Now, some people get a diagnosis. They go to the doctors or go to a mental health team and get a diagnosis because they're concerned about a problem that they're having, how they're feeling, etc., their behavior. And some people really welcome this news. It makes sense to them. At last, they can make sense of what's been happening in their world, as though it's nothing to do with their environment that's affected them in any way. And other people, they get this news of a diagnosis, and it's a completely traumatizing thing. It really upsets them and disturbs them. And also the complete opposite of those two things can happen. Someone can get a diagnosis and be relieved, feel relieved, and it makes sense, and then later down the road it becomes a bind, it becomes a problem, it becomes a trauma to them. And also the people that it was traumatic for by receiving this news, that can change too, and it becomes something more useful to them. So as a therapist and working with people with these 4 different things that happen to them, I believe that those 4 things do happen. I witness it. And so, I just find that really, really interesting. So all of that can happen, and it just baffles me that it wasn't really meant to happen this way. And but what really gets me about it is what I don't like about it is how it completely can pathologize a person. So if they have these bunch of traits, or they got these different parts of their psyche, and those are perceived, they diagnose them with that as though it's every single part of who they are, as though they're nothing else but that. And that's when it becomes a real problem, because it shames all the parts of the person that the people who diagnosed them didn't even see, didn't recognize. Whether it was in a hospital, the hospital hasn't seen that person in a different context and how they're behaving. So the diagnosis is only fractional. It's a reduction of who the person actually is. And I think that's a great loss. And so, a lot of the work that I do is as a therapist is non-diagnostic. It's non-pathologizing and even de-pathologizing, where we help the person relate to those parts of them that have been diagnosed or pathologized, or they've been completely pathologized, and we help them see that what parts were seen as pathologized, and help them separate that from the rest of them, so they can build a more healthy relationship to the different parts or aspects or different emotional embodiments that they experience, and change their relationship to that in a way that makes it more possible for them and more freeing. So that's what I do as a non-pathologizing and non-diagnosing, purposely non-diagnosing therapist. And I'm just wondering if that's interesting at all. So to other people, there's this big movement called drop the disorder. To take the D out of this kind of way of thinking. It doesn't have to be a problem. Problemizing stuff and just making. I think making things worse than they need to be. So yeah, it's just an interesting thing. Like I said earlier, there's 4 things that can happen. But the major problem for me as a therapist, what I witness is how a diagnosis can completely pathologize a whole person. I don't like that. Thanks for listening.